This is a Shock podcast. Shock.
Hi guys, welcome back to The Art of Beauty Season 3. And today we've got another guest. Well, there's been a guest on every single episode, but today we've got another guest, and it's Amanda Imani. Woo!
Yay.
Welcome. Sorry, before we get started, so we were chit-chatting for an hour and a half, and we all found out. The three of us actually found out that we went to the same school around the same time.
Pretty much.
Why?
Junior, senior.
Yeah. Well, so it goes.
Yasmin really loves her alumni, so thanks a lot.
Yeah, I don't know how I did it, honestly. So it goes 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about how old we are, but it goes 1, 2, 3.
But obviously I'm the youngest. Hello?
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. So we want to know, okay, today you woke up, what is the first thing that you do as a skincare routine?
Wow. Well, my morning skincare. I try to keep it really short in the morning because, I always have somewhere to be, somewhere to go, something to do.
So she busy. She busy.
When I have the time, I love to pamper myself, put a mask on and do all that.
Ooh.
But if I have to go out the door, I usually try and get everything done in less than 10-15 minutes. So I'll wake up and then obviously I do my cleanse, my toner, serum, moisturizer, sunscreen, the most important.
100%. If there's anything that you take away from this episode, sunscreen is a must. It's non-negotiable.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's
what SPF though?
Lately I've been really loving Korean sunscreens. I love Korean sunscreens. It's just there's something about it that it's the texture.
Yeah.
Right?
So what's your favorite at the moment?
I try a lot. I've been really loving, I think it's called, I don't know, it's the rice one.
Beauty of Joseon.
Yes. It's good, right?
Yes.
Not only did we go to the same school, we were the same sunscreen.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so good. I mean, it's affordable, it's accessible, and it feels good. I feel it doesn't break me out, and I just like how it feels on the skin.
Yeah.
I love that too.
Every
I wear it
day.
as a primer. So
Yeah. No, actually, makeup lays so well on Korean sunscreen. I don't know what it is that they put in there.
Exactly.
So I use that. I use Tokobo as well, and I've been trying Round Labs, birch water sunscreen. All Korean. Is it Korean or Japanese? I can't remember. But so good, so good. And I feel like my makeup just lays so well. Sometimes I skip moisturizer completely.
Yes.
Actually, it's about
it's just enough.
Yeah, it's literally just enough moisture on my face, and it acts like such a good base.
Yeah.
correct.
So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and the foundation glides really well
Exactly.
with the
100%
sunscreen
sure.
alone.
100%. Yeah. And you take 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah,
to
with
get
my
ready.
makeup included. So I'll usually will do.
Wait,
Yeah,
what?
I mean,
Girl,
I try to
how?
not when I was much younger. I used to spend 1 hour doing my makeup because I love doing bright, bold eye look. I still do,
Yeah.
but usually for every day, I will usually just put on a tinted moisturizer, concealer, blush, and I'm a cream person. I'm a cream girl now.
Oh, okay. But do you have dry skin?
I have combo skin.
Okay, right. So you
But-
can still take it, lah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like it just looks more natural. It just kind of looks more effortless. I used to love powders. I was a powder girl through and through throughout college and all that. But lately I've been into creams, liquids. So it's really fast, and I just use 3 brushes and I'm out the door.
What's the difference though? Changing from powder to cream.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it is easier to blend, or is it because it just looks better in photos?
Yeah, because you would think, right? Especially in this
Climate.
Malaysia,
Yeah.
kan, it's hot, humid, disgusting. Yeah, the thing is, I agree with you. A lot of the stuff that I use I'm very cream heavy and all of that, but it doesn't last. That's the
Yes.
problem, right? I'm just sweating all the time.
true.
It's so gross.
Especially if you have oily skin.
Yeah, I'm an oily gal.
I'm an oily
that's
gal.
why. Yeah.
I think for me, it's I just think that it blends easier application wise. It's just easier to blend, and there's less layers that you use. Because I would still use a powder, but just on top of everything
finishing.
else. As a finishing, yeah.
Right.
Instead of going in with powder and then powder bronzer and then powder blush. I would just do the whole thing, like foundation, concealer, cream blush, cream highlight, cream bronzer, and then set everything with powder.
Reinforce.
But I do touch
got
up
you.
throughout the day. I just find that it just looks more natural, like in person. You know, if I'm just running errands, if I just have, you know, meeting friends or something, then I'll do like a really light kind of like 10-minute glam.
So you are super busy, and we know that your skincare routine is really simple. 15 minutes, hello.
In the morning. At night, it's like a little bit more
It's a different
expensive.
story.
But we want to know, like, what is your stage makeup routine? When you go on stage, when you have to perform, what is the difference between a natural makeup look? Sometimes makeup artists, they have different types of makeup. Bridal makeup, they have artistry, example.
yeah.
So what about you when you go on stage?
Because just to like add on to that, because application for like, okay, so I've realized that there are 3 different kinds of like makeup application depending on where you're going, right? So there's like in person, right? There is like events, right? When you're under like big lights and stuff, and then there's on camera. So like with the previous recordings, I was just wearing like just regular schmegular, right? Like my everyday makeup, and like it wasn't translating the same.
Right.
So like that's why today, like I don't know if I look different or not, but like I don't know. But I realized, because okay, so you guys can't see this, but there are literally 2 lights here, 2 lights here. There are lights on top of us as well.
Yes.
Behind the scenes secret. So we're lit differently. But obviously when we walk outside, like I look kind of cakey. I won't lie. In real life, I look kind of cakey. Hopefully, I look flawless lah when you're looking at me right now. So yes. So carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, like, you know, all of it is all different, like application wise, and how, like you said, how it looks translates in person would look different on screen.
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, if you're on screen, obviously, like you said, with all the lights and the, you know, it's hot with all the lights around. You want something to be, you know, able to last throughout the day, or even if you sweat through it or cry through it, for example, or if you're singing, you're moving your face, you're emoting and stuff. So I think that's, you know, that's where like long wear makeup comes into place, right? So it's like, but if you're just going out and about, like I feel like, yeah, like you said, it could look cakey, but on screen I feel like it sometimes when you just use regular, you know, like everyday makeup, it just looks a little bit washed out on screen because of all the light.
Precisely.
Yeah, and on screen it just looks like you don't really have anything on. But in person it might look like, wow, you actually did a full face.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So I
It
feel
looks a
like,
lot.
yeah, a lot of times we kind of overdo it a little bit when it's, you know, on camera or on stage. Like for me on stage, I try to make it like as long wearing as possible, because sometimes like if I do a performance or a singing show, it'll be like 45 minutes and we have a break and then we'll do another set. So it's like literally 2 hours straight, and I don't really have the time to, just a light touch up, but I don't have time to like redo anything. Or so I try to pick a foundation that's going to wear as long. And the other thing I realized, like I think when we're on screen, even we will just automatically look more glowy because of the light.
Yeah,
Like I feel like you
lights,
can skip the highlight for sure, because you're
Yeah,
going to highlight.
100%.
It's the sweat.
It's the sweat and just the light reflecting off the cheekbones. But like in person, I feel like I would still use a highlight. Just on screen, I tend not to.
Yeah,
I
there's
try to
no
keep-
need, right?
Yeah,
There's no need.
because like when you think you look good, like you powder your face, but then you will look extra shiny on camera. So that's like one thing I picked up. I was like, okay, may I skip the highlight when I do like, you know, anything on screen.
Right.
You're a pro. So you've been a singer for about 10 years, more than that
Yeah, it's
even.
been a long.
What is your routine before you go on stage? Do you get the nerves? Do you get the nervousness?
fright?
Yeah, stage fright. And what do you do about it? How do you mentally prep yourself before you go and see the crowd?
Right. I think for me, the most important is like getting enough rest. I think that's the most important, because I think a lot of people don't realize like how much goes into you know, a performance, for example. Like people only see that 2-3 hours that you're on stage and when you're out and you're performing and you're singing, but people don't realize like usually we have like rehearsal, we have band practice, we have sound check and all that, and that takes a lot of time and also energy. So I think the most important like is to look to look alive and to look fresh when you start, you know, performance, is to have enough rest. And I think for me that's how I unwind. I just try to, you know, I like being on my own like a few hours before so that I can just kind of calm down, and I think like that's how I mentally prepare before I work. And also I think it's really important just to stay hydrated and, you know, keep yourself kind of calm throughout, because otherwise as a singer I feel like if you're just running all around and then once you actually start your set you're like out of breath, you're already,
Right.
because you need a lot of like you need a lot of breath, like to do a 2-hour show, for example, and you're doing like 20 songs.
As a singer, do you have like a particular pantang or patua that you, a particular diet that you have to go through before you perform? Because sometimes I do hear like Whitney Houston, she doesn't eat certain things before she goes on stage, and like Celine Dion, she doesn't drink coffee. Wow. Yeah, I mean, not me. Before the performance, yeah.
Like, I think for me, it's just I try to take like honey lemon, like as much as I can, like the day before and before the show itself.
Because it's soothing for your throat.
Yeah, it's soothing for the throat, and I try to take it warm. I try to avoid cold or icy drinks, but I mean, sometimes I still sneak it in there, depending. Like sometimes, like right before the show, I'm like, no, I need a nice coffee to give me that boost, you know. So I don't really have like do's and don'ts, like diet-wise or drinks-wise, but I just try to not overuse my voice too much, or I don't try to overexert it, like the day of and the night before.
Do you get a vocal break? Like you don't talk to anyone before?
Not really, no.
There's some people who do that, right?
I find that like, because usually we have like a warm-up like right before we do a show. I find that the more I talk to people, and that's kind of already my warm up, so then it feels like, you know, I don't have to do as much like right before. I feel like if I just keep quiet, like when I start, my voice will just be like, it takes more time, I guess, to open up. So throughout the day I'll try and talk, but a little bit softer, just to reserve that energy and to reserve the voice. But other than that, it's pretty much like my normal everyday.
Okay, 2 questions. Suddenly they just popped up like in my head. First question, is it true that milk is really bad for singers? Dairy?
Yeah, I think so.
Right?
Yeah. I actually stopped taking dairy,
dairy.
like in drinks.
What happens if you do?
I just find that it gives you this like mucusy.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you try it now?
Oh my god. I don't know. I don't drink milk. I don't drink
so
dairy.
no milk in your coffee. That's
I take oat milk.
Cold brew.
Okay, understood.
Yeah,
Got
but
it,
I mean,
got it.
like desserts and stuff, pasta, cheese, I'll take that, like if it's cooked, but I just try to avoid milk, like drinking milk.
Okay.
And I find that also it helps with like acne and stuff.
Really?
Beauty-wise.
Yeah, beauty-wise. Okay, anyway, sorry. That was
And
like
sugar
the first
too.
question.
I noticed that if I stop taking sugar, like
that's
the
true.
desserts, and actually your skin actually clears up,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think diet plays such a big role. I mean, I'm not a doctor
course.
as well, but I think that because everybody's different, and when you do this trial and error with diet, and it's somehow you know what's best for your skin.
I think you trial and error, you kind of figure out what works, what doesn't, and like what helps you, what keeps your skin clear, what doesn't, and what contributes to flare-ups, whether it's like eczema or acne.
Yes.
Yeah, I think people forget that like your skin is an organ. I know that's a really weird way to like think about it, but like your skin is literally an organ. So like what you ingest is
You
gonna
get
show
out.
here.
It's gonna show up somewhere.
Yeah, exactly, and it's gonna be on your skin, right?
true.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry, that was like the first question. Second question, when you're on stage, okay, so like I'm the type, like sometimes like when I'm like in the middle of doing something, I'll like temenung. It's not because I'm not listening to you, it's
Zone
just
out.
you know, I just have like a moment where I'm like, oh god, like did I lock my car? I'll just be thinking
Random
about something
thoughts.
like really
Right.
random. When you're on stage, do you ever have like those thoughts like, oh god, like what am I eating for dinner later? Like, oh wait, hang on, did I switch off like did I take my clothes out of the laundry machine?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So
I mean, sometimes I think I have that like when I'm just kind of waiting around, like during sound check or rehearsal, like because it's not as, I mean, I'm not really like performing, I'm just kind of testing out. So I'll be walking around and I'm just like waiting and like kind of listening, and then I'll think about the most random things. But like it's more like, okay, should I stand here? Like it's kind of still work related, I guess.
okay,
And
right.
do I have enough water? Where should I put my water? Like that kind of stuff. But
Okay,
yeah,
so
I
it's
do
work
definitely.
related. That's so professional.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, and then you have me on the other hand being like what am I having for like lunch next week?
So, like being on stage, does that somehow trigger any sort of emotion that you have in you? Because we want to know, because not everybody has the ability to go on stage and have the
That's a lot of eyes, man. That's a lot of eyes
Yes,
looking at you.
yeah,
you know?
do you get that nervousness, and does that somehow heighten your anxiety if you already have it? And what do you do about it?
I would say, I think when I first started out, I definitely had like more anxiety, stage fright going on stage because I was really young when I started. I started singing at 16. So I was at the tail end of my high school year. And I think I was just, like I was kind of like a teenager, and I wasn't a very loud or, extroverted person anyway. So then going up in front on stage and having to perform and address people and have eye contact and, kind of interact with the audience was a bit nerve-wracking in the beginning, but I think after doing it like a few times and you just kind of get used to it, and then you realize that people are not as bad as you think. Like they're actually really welcoming, and a lot of times they actually want to see you perform, and I think that's somehow I felt like when I'm on stage I'm more comfortable
than off stage.
Yeah, it is. Like it's a very weird thing because I am still pretty much an introvert still, but like being on stage requires me to like be kind of like open and always making eye contact with people, and sometimes we interact with the audience, like when we're singing, like I'll either go down or have someone come up, and I don't know, it just like it feels like something takes over you and you're like this different person, and then when I go backstage I'm like silent, so it's like I don't know how to, I wouldn't say like I have a different persona or anything. I know like Beyonce does, right? But
Sasha Fierce.
Sasha Fierce, like I don't have that. I don't think it's just like it's like a on and off switch, like when I'm performing or even if I'm at an event, for example, like you're just like a different I don't want to say character, but you just kind of like switch on this little different facet of yourself, and then
being in the public eye as an introvert, how does that translate? How do you separate yourself from the real you and someone, example Sasha Fierce for as an example?
I think it's again like experience, I think, and just being comfortable with yourself and what you have to offer, I think is really important as well, because sometimes I've learned in this industry, like when I first started I was very reserved. And I think, throughout the years, you just tend to open up more after you meet more people, and then, you get to know people, and when you meet them again, it's just a lot more comfortable just saying hi. But I used to always have an issue like going up to people, like saying hi or introducing myself or, whatever. And
I have that problem too.
It's kind of awkward. Like, honestly, sometimes you're like, oh, I know this person from Instagram, for example, but then is it weird like if I go up and say like hi, like they'll be thinking like, who are you, like do I know you, like you always think of all these things. But then like lately I think the last few years I just like was like, you know what, just do it, whatever. So, and most of the time, like I would say 99% of the time they welcome you saying hi to them, and they actually like some people coming up to them and recognizing them or admiring what they do. So I think in the end it's just about like, I guess, being confident and comfortable enough with who you are,
and the vibes that you give you get back.
That's true. I think it's really important to also always just be like down to earth and humble and authentic, obviously, especially in this industry, because there's so many people, new talents every day, and I think it's always important to stay unique and just I guess at the end of the day, really love what you do, and I think it shows in your work if you are authentic and organic about the craft, that whether it's singing, acting, hosting,
it's passion.
The passion. I think that shows as well, especially like with your like social media, like with your following. I think people can, especially these days, can really sense, if you are who you really say you are.
We're a lot more woke, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
But like going back to confidence, right? Do you sometimes feel a bit like self-conscious at any point? Because like obviously there's just so many eyes on you, right? Like I personally, like I would feel the pressure, like even just like little things like, oh my god, is this like something like in my teeth, like does my foundation like on my face like match my neck, like like just really like in hindsight it seems very small, very dumb, and like and whatever, but like do you ever feel like when you're on stage feel very self-conscious of like the way you look, the way you present yourself, like the way you come across?
Of course. I think especially if you're a lot younger and you're kind of still finding yourself, and I just think that if you haven't had like that self-confidence built enough, like you just feel like, wow, am I lacking something? Am I overdoing something? Am I dressing too loud or not enough, or am I underdressed? Like all those things go through your head. I think I definitely had those thoughts before. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I think, again, just being comfortable in your own skin, because apart from singing, I also do some freelance modeling. So it's difficult, honestly, because in this industry, you know, I think when I first started, everybody was expected to be a certain size, a certain height, a certain, you know, everybody had to have a certain look. And I think now we're a lot more accepting of, you know, people in different backgrounds, diversity, inclusivity.
Yes.
And I think it's really important.
Amen.
So,
Alhamdulillah. Yes.
yeah, so definitely I think now people are a little bit nicer, but back then it was a very distinct
size 2.
So yeah, exactly. You're either it or you're not.
Yeah.
Like there's no in between. Like right now I feel like there's this new space for people, diversity and, you know, people of color and all that. And so I think it's really important that, you know, that we continuously progress in that direction. So it's nice to see, and I think because of that, people are a lot more accepting and nicer to you as well, in terms of, like, you know, giving you opportunities, or, you know, allowing you to step forward and kind of have a bit of that limelight, as opposed to people back then, you were either, you know, an OG model or you weren't. You know, that was
you were either
Yes
size
or no.
00
Yeah,
or
exactly.
0
That's
or
right.
nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Correct,
Yeah. Okay, so like going back to like what you were saying, right? Like when you first started out, and having those, like, I guess, pressures like placed on you to look a certain way, right? So like how did you, I don't know, like what was your like thought process to begin with?
I think at first, definitely, like when you start out, like people would just, because if you're new, people will definitely just say, oh, you're this, you're that, or you should be more like this, or you should do your hair that way, or you shouldn't wear this much makeup because you're so young, or, you know, maybe you should lose a size, or like a million things. Like I've heard everything.
Because some people get comfortable saying that.
Yeah,
though.
and
like,
to them
you know.
it's all right. Like, you know, they'll just say it out, and they don't think like it's going to affect you. Or, but of course, I think anyone, man or woman, I think you know, we will feel these things, internalize them, and then we'd be like, am I really, like, do I really look that bad? Like all these insecurities will start to kind of just come out, right?
Yes.
And I think it just takes time for you to actually, I guess I wouldn't say conform, but I would say, like, you know, just in the end, just know what you stand for, and then commit to it, and then just prove them wrong. Like for me, they were always like, oh man, maybe you should lose some weight, maybe you should do this, or maybe you shouldn't, you know, whatever, dress a certain way, maybe you should dress more conservatively.
Are these things that have been said to you?
Yeah, of course, all the time.
Goodness. Said to you.
Yes,
Wow.
like, no, from one person, like constantly. I mean, I still get it sometimes, like, but you know, I'm just like, yeah, I don't take it personally anymore. I used to like take it really personally and be like, oh wow, I'm really not cut out for this, you know. I'm really like, but I think over the years you just tend to like have this, I guess, like nonchalant way of like kind of just accepting it and just taking it for what it is. And then, you know, you don't have to take it to heart, you don't have to feel insulted, or you don't have to feel, you know, everybody can have their opinion, and in the end everybody's gonna have an opinion whether you agree with it or not.
How do you evolve to that mentality where you just don't care what people say and just do it?
I think, you know, it's difficult, honestly. I feel like definitely peer pressure and pressure from the industry, and obviously those things, like sometimes, like if you go for a shoot or something and they have all these, you know, size, like dresses like lined
Sample
up,
sizes.
and sometimes you feel like, oh, maybe I won't fit into that, or maybe it's going to be too long for me, or like, you have all these things. So there's a lot of pressure that goes into it. But I think, yeah, at the end, you're gonna have to just say, like, this is me, like, you know, and this is what I do. I know what I'm good at. I know what I can offer. I know what I can bring to the table, and, you know, I hope that you can see that. And if you do, that's great. And if you don't, there's a ton of other people.
Move on.
Exactly.
Walk on.
Because if you don't want it, someone else, you know, will appreciate you for who you are.
100%, yes.
So I think it's just finding those little, you know, niche of supporters that will accept you for who you are, what you do, and what you have to offer. And I think that's, at the end, what you really want anyway, because you don't want people who are just kind of like fakely supporting you, or just kind of pretending to be nice to you or something like that. You really want people who will organically, you know, admire you for who you are and what you represent. And I think that's really important as well.
I love that shift in mentality where even clothing brands, they listen to you now. And as opposed to 10 years ago, sometimes they'll only cater to maybe UK size 2 to maybe 12. And especially in Malaysia, where the average size is about, I think, UK 10 medium. Is medium. And sometimes it's just so frustrating, especially for me, because I went through fluctuations in weight. And sometimes in the store, the biggest size is medium.
Yeah.
And it's different now. Yeah, they have different sizes,
Correct.
and I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot, and people don't realize like you could be one size and someone else could look a different way, but they could also fit that same size.
Yes.
And people's bodies
Yeah.
are just so different,
Yeah.
and like, you know, everybody's a different height, and you could be the same weight, but you look completely different than the other person. So it's, you know, you can never, it's very subjective.
Yeah. No, snaps to that. I mean, like, very well said.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it any better. But yeah, I think like sometimes like all this pressure, right, ends up, I don't know, influencing people to do certain things that they wouldn't have considered before. So like, for example, like plastic surgery, right?
Yeah.
But like with that being said, let's just be super honest.
Yeah.
Would any of you guys ever consider
Plastic
doing
surgery?
plastic surgery?
I've always thought of that,
Right.
but I think that one thing that do hold me back is actually religion.
Right.
Yeah, because I guess somehow with religion you have that something to hold you back, something as a guide.
Yeah.
But I think if I had no religion, I
Yeah.
would just do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
not?
yeah,
If
yeah.
it makes you feel good,
Right,
go ahead. So I have no
exactly.
judgment on anybody who wants to do plastic surgery,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, if you feel good, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
In your own
isn't
skin.
it?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
mhm.
yeah. No matter like
Yeah.
what you do.
How about you? Would you do it?
No, not for me. Not for me. I don't think so. Like, it's just again like what you were saying, right? I don't judge
Yeah.
anyone who would want to, because like at the end of the day, like you are living in your own body,
Right,
right?
that's
So and you literally have one body, so
Yes.
like you gotta be happy in it.
Yeah.
So for me personally, it's a no lah.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, yeah. What about you? What about you?
Again, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't judge someone if they wanted to, but I do think, you know, yeah, it's becoming more of a norm now, and people are sharing it more. They're more open with it.
Open, yes.
Yeah. I guess back then, people were a little bit more conservative. They're like, oh, even if they did something, they would be like,
Super
no,
hush hush.
I
Yeah.
can't do
Super
it.
hush hush.
So I think it's good that now people are a little bit more transparent in that
yeah.
sense, because at least you know. And I don't think, honestly, I don't think there's anything that you should feel ashamed about if
Yeah.
you did do something.
Yes.
I personally wouldn't either. I mean, I always had that pressure, like, oh, maybe like, you know, if I had my eyes bigger, for example. But then I think over the years, you kind of, as you get older, you kind of learn to love those little parts of yourself that you thought were not good enough, or didn't translate as well on camera, for example. So I think those little insecurities tend to become like your unique features in the end, which
Yeah,
I
'cause
think
it
is
makes-
really
it makes
authentic.
you
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
right?
So I wouldn't
Yes.
change anything. I personally wouldn't change anything about myself, but definitely there are insecurities. But I don't think I would take that step. Like you said, it's, you know, it's going to be
Irreversible.
permanent, and I don't
Yeah.
think that's something I can personally commit to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Like-
that's the reason why people keep going and doing this plastic surgery
Because they
thing
think it
over
can
and
always
over.
be better.
Correct.
They're like,
correct.
maybe it can be slightly
It's
better.
never enough.
Slightly,
So
yeah.
Exactly. It will never
It's
be
like a
enough,
downward,
right?
it's like rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is. And it is really, really scary.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's why some people say that instead of going to the plastic surgeon, go to a therapist first.
yeah.
Because it's all in here.
Yeah,
It's
that's true. Actually.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because, like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's, you know, at the core of it, it's self-esteem,
all up
it's
self-esteem,
self-confidence,
yeah.
it's how you view yourself,
Yeah.
right? Your self-perception.
Yeah.
But I've seen plastic surgery that is done very well, and I mean, to me, if the person feels beautiful, it translates in her personality as well. Because when someone's not happy within, it shows in their personality. It shows in how they carry themselves.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, if it helps you happier,
Yeah,
Right?
no, 100%. Because like I think beauty is so. I mean, we've been talking about this for like a while, right? Like beauty is so linked to mental health.
Yeah.
Yep.
So linked. So like that's why it's so important to like check yourself first,
Yes.
right? Before you do something. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you started your career at 16. You were still a baby. So if you
A young sprout.
Yeah.
Yes.
you were the Gen Z of the Gen Zs. So if you were to start
Yeah.
again, would you start at 16, knowing what you know now?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have waited a little bit?
Is this industry safe enough for a 16-year-old?
Wow.
Yeah.
Safe enough.
And 16-year-old you then.
Right.
Like, you know, the mindset that you were in, like where you were at that time, like, do you think you were ready at the time? Or would you have waited for like, I don't know, till you were like 21, for example?
Right. Honestly, I wish I started earlier.
Earlier?
Well, you think you could have done earlier?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. It's like, I feel like, you know, okay, well, I'm a millennial, so back then, like, everything wasn't as woke. Like, we didn't have social media
Yes.
back then, so everything was kind of like, you know, we only had magazines, we had, like traditional media broadcasts and all, but we didn't have social media. We didn't have people that we could just, you know, look at our phones and be like, oh, this person I really admire for what they do. Like, everything was kind of already set for us. Like, whatever we saw in magazines was a certain look and a certain side, and like I said, a certain face or an image. And so you know, back then I was very impressionable, I was very naive and innocent, I think, like a lot of teens and, you know, younger adults. But I think there's really no right age, like coming in. Yeah, you mature as you get older, but I think the industry is just built different. This specific industry is built different because, as you mentioned, like, it's very, in a sense, a little bit superficial, because everything is, you know, about how you look and how you sound and how talented or how many followers now that you have, you know. So all those things are, in the end, like little factors that can kind of be pressure to someone. So I think back then we didn't have social media, so I didn't really have that pressure from like, oh, how many followers do you have? What's your following? Like, you know, it was more of like, how talented were you, or were you talented enough, you know? And I think obviously you work and then you realize, and with experience you gain a lot more knowledge and a lot more understanding of how the business works and how people are in the industry in general. So for me, I think, you know, there's really no right age. But of course, when you're younger, you're more impressionable. But at the same time, you start older, you know, this industry is like, well, when you turn 30, you're like considered old. So there's really no, I wish I started younger, because then I would have more time.
Yeah. Okay, 2 questions.
Yeah.
I've just picked from there.
Oh, wow.
So, first question.
Yes.
Do you think that you had to grow up quicker
Yeah.
because you started so young?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think when you're 16, they're like, oh, you're the youngest. Like, people always say that. And then because you're surrounded by people that are much older than you, like, back then, like, everybody seemed older, and I was working, you know, in the studio with people who were also much older, and I think you just adapt quicker, like, to your environment, because everybody is thinking a certain way or they're on a different level, and you just have to kind of play catch up with them. And so for me, that's how it was. You know, I had to learn how to be like going to college, finishing high school, graduating high school, and then at the same time, like, at night I would go to the studio, and then we would like write and we would record. So I had to have like a split personality almost. I was a student by day and then was recording at night, and like it was a double shift for me, and I had to play like many different hats. And I think that's another real important thing. You have to play many different hats in this industry. You have to be yourself, you have to be who you are authentically, but also in front of, you know, in public, like, for example, with your fans, or if you're working, if you're in a studio, if you're recording, if you're in an event, like, there's many different hats you play, and also depending on the crowd, you know. And I think there's a lot of different niche markets, you know, especially for me when I do English songs, Malay songs, so it's a very different crowd to cater to for all these different types of events.
Do you think that looks play a bigger part than talent now?
The honest answer is yeah, definitely. I think
that's sad.
It's very
That's sad.
And I think now it's not so much just looks, it's more of like your social following now. Back then it was definitely like, oh, how you look. It doesn't really matter how you sound. You can always work, we can always auto-tune you, or like we can just manufacture you to be this like star, you know. If you looked a certain way, you could have the best voice, but if the sad part is if you didn't look a certain way, like even if you were so talented, you would not get the same, you know, you wouldn't be put on this pedestal because you just didn't fit a certain way, box. So I think now it's more of like, because of social media, it's like, well, if you have a lot of followers, it doesn't matter. Sometimes people don't even know, like, what do you do? Like, do you act? Or you say, no, I'm just TikToker now, you know, like it could just be many different things. And I think it's funny to see the crossover from people doing TikTok to now becoming actors. Because back then it was like there was no such thing.
Is that frustrating for you as someone who is so talented, who has a powerful voice? Do you feel that having to do all these TikTok dances, examples, does that somehow minimize the talent that you already have?
I think, it's just the industry landscape just constantly changes, and I'm pretty sure after TikTok and Threads and all this, there's going to be another app, and there's going to be a different benchmark of what success looks like to some people. So for some people it's followers, to some people it's fame, to some people it's how much you make, right? So I think for me it's a bit of everything, and that's important to have balance. I think you shouldn't always, because one day maybe Instagram's not going to be around and nobody cares if you have 3 million followers or not. I don't know, maybe 10 years down the line. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, if you know like you are good at acting or singing or hosting, whatever, just keep at that. And I think it's important to also kind of experiment and see what other avenues you might be good at, for example. So I think the crossover thing is great, but it's definitely a bit frustrating sometimes because there's so many new fresh faces and talents. But I appreciate everybody who's doing social media, TikTok. It's difficult doing TikTok, don't get me wrong. I was like, wow, I can't do that. There's no way I could do a TikTok dance and learn it. It's crazy. But people are, I guess they're talented in their own way with social media, which is also really nice to see.
Changing every day.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, before we wrap things up, because we gotta wrap up. One last question.
Yeah.
What does beauty mean to you?
Wow, this is a very complex. I think beauty at the end of the day, it really is how you perceive yourself and how you carry yourself. And how you show yourself to the world. I think that at the end of the day, to me, that's the meaning of beauty. It's not so much how you look. I think it's a bit of everything, like how you carry yourself, how you speak, your personality. And I think that shows when you speak to people, when you connect with people, because I think, we vibe off a lot of people's energies. And I think the energy that you bring, whether you're very approachable or if you're not, all those things kind of add up. And I think that's what makes you beautiful as a person, or as a human as a whole. So I think it's little bits of everything that's important at the end of the day. Yeah.
A concoction of everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Like a buffet,
Exactly. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us on Art of Beauty.
It's been a pleasure.
Lots of wisdom there.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about a lot, and it's been super insightful. I think you're the first singer we've ever had on this show.
Yeah,
I think
Awesome.
I actually, you know what, I'm pretty sure is it? Yeah, producer? Okay. Yeah, I think you are the first singer, so it's been really insightful just to get like your
perspective.
Your perspective on like the industry and just like your place in it as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking
Thank
time
you,
to speak to
Amanda.
us. Really
It's been an
appreciate it. Yay. Okay, well, thank you guys for tuning into this episode of The Art of Beauty, and we will catch you guys next week.
Bye.